spook easily stung.
Have you ever explored the depths of fear? Have you ever wondered what depravity dwells within the imagination of a storyteller that prompts them to exhume horrors untold and expose those horrors to unsuspecting audiences? Some are repulsed, and some are shaken. However, there are those who are invigorated. So to those demented souls, we invite you to journey inward into the dark bowels of human imagination. Press play, and you will discover what's in the podcast.
Frank Lamm, Horst Wolf hat meinen Kollegen ermordet und Frau Grün vom Umweltamt. Nein! Freie Schussbahn! Scheiße! Soll mal einer sagen, ich hätte nicht alles versucht. Endlich!
And welcome back to this edition of What's in the Podcast. Today we are playing it chill. We are just going to talk about shit for the next hour. We're just going to talk about the doo-doo, the poop, or as Clarence Williams III famously said, the shit, the doo-doo, the poopity-pop. we are talking about, but not just any kind of shit. We're talking about holy shit, specifically the German film Ach du Scheiße, that released out of Germany in a couple years ago, but just recently had its American release on Screambox right now. And I was recommended to watch this movie by my guest, and how could I not jump on a movie called Holy Shit? You know, now, I mean, I'm a child of the time where it was so taboo to even say shit like in a PG-13 movie, that to find out that now I'm living in a beautiful age where someone can flat out say holy shit in a title. It's a beautiful time. So I have to watch the movie in question, and the movie was utterly wonderful, and I had to talk about it. And of course I had to talk about it with the person who recommended it to me. You just recently made his acquaintance in talking about his upcoming album, STABBY Road, which once again, it will be available on Bandcamp September 1st, but you can pre-order it now. So bringing him back for a lovely round two, here is Mr. Jeff Whitmire. Welcome back, sir.
Hello, thanks for having me back.
All right.
To talk about shit.
Yeah, let's talk about shit. And I bet that joke is going to be told so many times.
I'm always recommending shit to people.
But it all begs the question. Well, I like to abide by John Waters' principle that there are no bad movies, just boring ones. And definitely goes without saying, Holy Shit is not a boring film.
No, not at all.
And it is by no means a movie that wears out its presence. This is a lean, mean 90-minute film that has so much and yet presented in such a minimalistic way. So to begin, go ahead and give us the synopsis for Holy Shit.
I will. So Holy Shit is a German film, as we said, and it involves an architect named Frank who wakes up inside a porta potty with limited memory of what happened and how he got there. And as the movie unfolds, we come to learn that he's on a construction site, trapped in his porta potty that has been padlocked, and there are explosives near him, and he sees that he has a time frame to get out of there, or before something happens. In fact, he has 30 minutes before the explosions are going to go off. As the movie unfolds, then too, we find out that there's a much bigger scenario and a mystery happening here with how he got there and what happened. And it just does a fantastic job of working in this very limited space to sell this story and what happens, and it does it very artistically too, with also being a lot of fun.
Yeah, so the first major thing, the major thing to note, I actually, immediately after watching this, bear in mind, it was like almost 3 a.m., that's how much I love this film. I immediately took to my TikTok to do my 3-minute recommendation on it. This is a particular subgenre of horror that I feel really doesn't get as much attention. Even though I like to call it survival horror, because frankly, that's what this is. This is about someone struggling to stay alive in a seemingly unbeatable scenario. This is the most recently we had the movie Fall, which kind of tackled this. I would even consider The Shallows kind of a
Yeah,
similar.
yeah, I would. Yeah,
The Shallows, I would definitely fall underneath this heading.
and plus
Even
they gives
though,
you and that gives you a shark film too, which I'm always up for.
we get a shark film, but we also get a survival scenario too. There's even some films that we don't even consider horror, but the situation I think constitutes, like even Alive, I would consider to be survival horror.
Right.
Yeah,
and there are definitely horrific things that happen in Holy Shit. I quote tweeted a picture of a scene that happens later in the movie where he finally realizes he can free himself, and that's definitely a very solid cringy moment and very
Yeah, well, actually, I really all right. Well, I think we're getting a little ahead. I mean, first things first. Yeah,
we are. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll talk the broad strokes. We'll talk the broad strokes first. Again, for everybody, it is on Screenbox. Definitely check it out there. Screenbox is like the little brother to Shudder and has just as great a content, and actually a lot of great original content in and of itself.
They've really been upping their original and exclusive content this year, and I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, first off, just they got the amazing documentaries, Living with Chucky, and one that I recommended, and one that I actually recently recommended on my TikTok, Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story, which is utterly beautiful. So definitely give that a go. But Holy Shit is on there, and it is definitely worth your time. Oh,
and a Clue and a RoboCop documentary coming this month too.
Yeah, and actually, that's where you can, even though now it's widespread now, but you could also watch Terrifier and Terrifier 2 on there.
Yes,
as well. So, all right, we pimped out Screenbox enough. So, to begin,
it's kind of what I do.
One thing I got to say that was an immediate grabber about this movie was how disorienting it was. The filmmaker Lucas Rinker did such a beautiful job making the opening of this film as disorienting for you as it is for Frank when he wakes up at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Because they film him in a way that they film him in tights, so you don't really know. You could tell he's in a porta potty, but you don't really know what his positioning is in there.
Right.
It seems like he's propped up against the wall. The way they're filming it, they're making it look like the porta potty's on the vertical, and his head seems to be next to the seat. His legs are up against the wall. I'm like,
right.
I mean, I know you're pinned. You're impaled. Oh, that's the other thing. Impaled by rebar.
His arm is pinned by rebar. Yeah.
And you're like, I know you're pinned there, but I don't see how this is possible that you're super glued to the wall like that. But then as it pulls out, you realize, oh no, the thing's tipped over. He's flat on his back.
Yep.
Yeah. And the movie does such a beautiful job just peeling like, to me, a great horror scenario should be like peeling away an onion, where you're just peeling away the layers to find the core underneath. And in a way, it's kind of like, it felt like an escape room to me, like the start of an escape room.
And definitely, throughout the film, I mean, you see he has to come up with some clever little moments, like how to beat the clock here. How can he call for help, or how can he get out of the situation? So, and like you said, with the peeling of the layers, as the movie progresses, it also does a really solid job of slowly unraveling, the whole mystery of how he got here. Because it's actually very nefarious why he's in this situation.
Oh yeah, and it's one thing just to say like, he's there just by corporate greed, but then as you actually meet the perpetrator in question, man, that guy is guy's unhinged.
He's off the chain.
He's off the chain. But I loved how it starts off like oddly kind of immaculate. It seems like, okay, he's got to get to his phone, but his phone fell in the shitter. You're seeing him trying to use whatever resource he has at his disposal, and it's like, dude, this guy MacGyver would want to take some tips from you, just so some of the ways he's able to, and even better, it doesn't feel unrealistic to me. I really felt like this guy is just damn lucky he had this apparatus and that he had his intuition to be able to do a lot of that.
Right.
So,
his architect skills definitely come into play. I mean, you get to see him actually figuring out where he is and positions and things like that, and he uses those tools, which is very cool. And whatever else he has at his disposal, which is fun to watch.
Well, the other thing that's also important here, and definitely why it's a spectacular script, when you meet Frank, you don't really know Frank,
right?
But the script does an exceptional job of helping us as he struggles, helping you get to know Frank, and does not use the conventional tactics, does not use flashbacks, does not use any kind of anything outside. You are trapped in this porta potty with him for the entirety of the 90 minutes, which is staggering.
And when they start to give you like the background of his girlfriend and the situation there and everything, it feels like he is just remembering the conversation. You hear the voiceover, but there again, it's not forced. It's like he's just remembering this conversation he had that morning. And a lot of it, a lot of the exposition that happens, you hear the voiceover, you hear a loudspeaker, where the Horst, the guy who's going to be building this resort, you can hear him having the conversations and everything. So it never feels like it's forced in there. It's just so natural how.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything just felt totally organic to the situation. It didn't feel. There's nothing in this film. The only thing that was forced in that movie was probably some of the shit that came out of the butts into the shit pot. You know, some of them probably had a lot of protein.
Right.
That's basically it. Admittedly, I watched this film at the right time because I'm also in the middle of a Saw binge, because I actually have not watched most of the Saw films until now.
All right, yeah.
So honestly, the scene you're alluding to, after watching some of the stuff I've seen in Saw, this is kind of, I was actually able to handle this a lot easier. I mean, it's like, you know what? Worst you get is maybe some sepsis, like some kind of like, diphtheria or some kind of, I've seen people having to put their hands through a circular saw.
It reminds me, every time I see that scene, it reminds me of that carnival game where you have the hoop and you have to twist it through the thing. That's what it felt like he was playing that game. Right. Because there is a scene to let people know where the rebar breaks and he realizes maybe I can actually get my arm off this thing. So
I think at this point, I think we were at the point where we could just flat out tell people, see it, just go see it now. We've already done it. Yeah. So, and I'm telling you all this now because we are in spoiler territory now.
Yeah,
so
we are. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you can. And also the fact he develops a odd relationship with the toilet lid because it has a smiley face.
It's like his Wilson character. Although this one's got a little more of a dark side to it. I think. He harasses him. He belittles him.
Completely belittles him. Since we're talking about it first, let's go ahead and get through it. So, as again to be stated, his arm is impaled by rebar, pretty much stapling him to the wall of it. Now, admittedly, I thought, because he had a pocket knife, and I thought he was going to go the full 127 hours on himself at that point, and I'm like,
he goes there a few times. He lines up and he's ready to go.
But... Well, there's even one point where he actually digs into his arm, but nothing happens. But I loved how right when he's about to do it, he sees that the rebar broke after a blast. Right. Immediately I was like, this is gonna hurt, but it's still way better. I love that he took the time to sterilize it. To lube it. Well, lube it, but probably even sterilize it a little bit with the, so I'm like, dude, you're swimming in shit. I'm pretty sure if you're lucky, you'll get to keep that arm.
Right.
The way that poor thing's been mangled. So, again, this is why I love scenarios like this. Even movies like, I'm trying to think. Well, even like most of the Saw movies kind of start similarly to this, where people wake up, they come to in a place that, and I love trying to piece everything together, trying to figure out where, all right, what came into play. This seems, even the little cut on his forehead,
right?
That seemed important to me too.
And it was,
well. It turned out.
Some of the things that he has to figure out how to get out of it. He uses that ingenuity, and there's there's some failures in there too, where he's like gets belittled by his toilet seat lid, which ultimately gets displaced as well. But what I really thought was another thing that was cool about it, and I watched it again last night because I knew we'd be talking about it. I've already watched it several times this year. It's just how well they do the heart too. To me, the epitome. A good movie can combine all that. You've got this single location film. The whole film, no spoiler, but the whole film takes place in this porta potty. from beginning to end. But somehow he manages to unravel this huge mystery that spirals out of control, and everything goes completely insane. But in the midst of all that, there's a drama they're unfolding. There's a heart where he had left his girlfriend on a rough conversation about family, about having kids and everything. And you even get to see some of his delusions where that's going to happen, what's going to happen if he didn't follow through in that. Which I thought was really unique too. Some of those little delusions that he has as well, these fantasies. But the way they wrap that up too in the movie, the way they just sell that heart and everything, is so good. The last 10 minutes of this film are very epic. It's the finale is epic.
Well, I think the thing that cracked me up was just how on the actor playing Horst. Now, again, like you said, I loved how we get voiceovers of what's going on outside, and a lot of it you're hearing Horst, right? And you're hearing, obviously his boss, obviously the person who hired him for this job, and obviously our focal villain. They are still, before you even see the guy's face, you know what he looks like, because there's a point when he opens up his briefcase and he sees like a picture of him.
Well, there's a poster. There's a poster in there too.
Yeah, exactly. They do such a great job on a visual level to make sure that the audience is completely on the same page with Frank. The level of audience interactivity is, I think, astounding, because you need a director who is obviously on the wavelength, or just someone who is on the wavelength with the audience to know what needs to be conveyed.
Right.
You can't just hit them with expository dialogue, which this does not do. It uses simple visual cues and just well-timed dialogue to hit home who's talking, who is this person, what are they? And by the time you actually do meet Horst, and you immediately can tell, oh, I don't like you at all.
But I love that. It's really ingenious when you watch it too, that a lot of what's happening as the exposition is happening, in the way, like we said, there's no real forced exposition. It's all being done either through the loudspeaker. I mean, Horst does most of the talking in this film, but you have the voiceovers. You do have an occasional phone call. You have another character, Bob, the explosives guy. Poor Bob. Poor Bob. But it a lot of the times while these conversations are happening, or you're seeing what you're seeing, Frank's eyes go right to that pertinent object. So they're showing you what needs to be shown without actually showing you. And I think that's really, really cool to do that. Like I said, there's a scene where you hear Bob and Horst talking, and he's looking at a picture of Bob and Horst, and he looks at Horst while Horst is talking, and then moves his eyes to Bob. Almost like you're watching that. So it's all playing out in the outhouse, but the way that it's done is very, very fluid and very cool.
And even with the climax, even with the fact that he's able to when he ultimately does free his arm, and you're thinking, awesome, he can get out. Then no, a blast went off. He's got rubble on top of the porta potty at this point. Right. It's like, I love not just how he's able to gradually free himself and get into a position where he can actually do something. I love how the situation keeps escalating. And I even love how Frank has to do some pretty uncomfortable things in order to de-escalate the situation. I mean, even to the point where he has to actually bite into a wire to stop an
That's probably my favorite scene of the whole movie, because that's like at the 1 second before the final explosion goes off, and he figures out exactly where that wire is. He's like, it's right below me, and he just digs down, and it's such a great moment.
It's such and funny enough, with a lot of these other survival horror films, a lot of them tend to devote themselves to just being to fill you with a level of despair in yourself. I think now, you told me when this one that it was a bit of a comedy, and even the Screenbox thing says it's a comedy. The thing I gotta say I love about this is that I think the humor just simply lies in the oddness of the situation.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think there are definitely moments where I found myself laughing or chuckling, even in this dire situation. I mean, they find little cute things, like when he's taking his pants off. At the same time that Horst references taking his pants off, and he looks down, he's got the little under construction thing. Like, there are those little moments, like there's moments of levity that kind of break it up for you. Even though things are going south really quick for all the characters.
I mean, the whole movie begins with just a shot of a woman just like being all like, hey,
A stripper,
a stripper with with a lit stick of dynamite going down her cleavage. That's how the movie starts. I'm like, oh, hi, Germany.
and it's relevant because it's the poster. It's that construction naked woman poster in a hysteria.
And the second it cuts to that, I was like, well done, movie.
But it's an attention grabber. You're like, what am I watching?
Well, definitely. I can imagine it grabbing some attention, but yeah, at the second it starts, and here I kept thinking to myself, and I'm usually always checking time, just kind of like so I can time code things, just kind of see where things land on a flow. And even when it was at 30 minutes to go, I was still going like, oh man, if it's still 30 minutes, that means shit's going to escalate. Things are going to change. Something's going to happen in this scenario that's going to make things either worse or there's a lot more going on that I didn't know. And it's insane how they're able to cram so much. And yet, we'll keep leading back to this, but the idea that all of this just revolves around one guy's trapped in a porta potty and we get such a big story.
The thing that keeps coming back when I recommend this and someone watches it, because I've been shouting this one from the rooftops all year, is almost without fail, the reaction that people will post is, how did they get so much in this movie? Like, how was so much packed into this little movie, this one location movie? And it's true. I mean, it feels so much bigger than it really is.
I don't know, just blew my mind.
It was great casting. As I said this is I watched this I think back in March, and it went right up to the top of my list of movies for the year, and it still has not been moved. And I watched it I think 4 times, and I just absolutely love it.
Well, we definitely have to give a shout out to our lead actor who played Frank, Thomas Niehaus, or Thomas Niehaus. I'm sure it's pronounced one of those ways. But again, you got to have an actor who is able to 100% commit physically and to be able to command the screen,
carry everything. Yes.
Yeah, and also, it just made me happy that you cast an actor who I look at him and I'm like going, architect. I get Yeah. He's such and I always love scenarios like this where you see someone who is so unassuming because it lowers your expectations for what this person is able to do.
Right.
Like, how capable is this person in dealing with a pretty horrible situation? And you're seeing this guy probably have to go out of his own comfort, and you could see how he's uncomfortable and how he's trying to do things within his comfort zone. But then as the situation de-escalates, he is, you see him just throwing caution to the wind. And I like how that kind of complements his arc in relation to him with his wife, Marie. I think, played by Olga von Luchwald. Olga von Luchwald.
Nice. Well done.
But I like how, and I kind of feel that that's the heart and soul of a good survival horror movie, is how the emotional arc that a character has to go through in order to survive. It's very clear they have to go do some inner searching in order to bring it out of themselves in order to survive. And this one definitely had to, it's clear this character had to look into the best of himself in order to to survive.
And the fact that he even got an arc in this situation, the fact that you see a very definite arc as this progresses is to credit to the actor, because Frank's character is pretty much the only character you see most of the movie, except for a few small instances, and then at the end. So Frank's persona is pretty much all you're looking at this whole movie, but you're rooting for him. You're like, oh man, this sucks, and you didn't mean what you said. Like you really start to feel for this guy, and
and even in the beginning, you're not sure about him yet. You don't know the full story with him. So there's also that little conflict the audience has. Is like, who are you? What landed you here? Was it something that was your fault? Was it? Was it? Yeah. So that's one thing that the audience is separate from him, because you don't know 100% about Frank yet. I mean, this could be just you brought this on yourself, asshole.
And the conversation with his wife, the bit you get at the beginning, does not put him in a good picture either. doesn't paint a good portrait of him. So you're hearing this bit of a conversation, you're seeing him in a situation. So they do kind of set up like, okay, where's this going to go? Is this a good guy? Is this a good character I want to root for? Or is he an anti-hero? And as it progresses, you find out, no, this is a really good guy stuck in a really, should I say, shitty situation.
Honestly, I'm amazed we've restrained ourselves to from using shit puns throughout the entire time. I mean, certain things about this movie I never thought. I never knew I could dial my smartphone with gum.
Right.
Yeah.
And he tries it. He tries it with the tape measure first. Doesn't work. Put some gum on it.
Yeah. I get that. That's another thing I have to say about all the solutions that he has to a lot of his problems. None of them ever really seem like they're going to be. I like how you think that that's going to be a solution that's going to do something, and it actually winds up not being the solution. Like I thought when he grabbed the gum and put it on I thought he was actually going to use it to stick the phone and drag it back to him.
Right, as opposed to type the number.
Yeah, to dialing. Or even I liked how he tried to set something on fire outside the porta potty, but then it turned out making things worse.
And then worse when he had to put it out.
Yeah.
But I like the failures, like trying to get the rabbit to chew the cord. That doesn't work. So trying to hit the button. It's like the fact that they really gutsy on the movie's part to show so many failures, and you're still like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's got to be levels. You can't have him succeed like every single time. That'd be boring. Right. So you got to have times where he does something on a wing and a prayer and hope that's going to do something. Now, I will say, one thing that was hilarious was that damn rabbit. Just like, first off, it's funny enough that he's trying to, coax this rabbit into chewing on the wires. But it's like, dude, you're not going to you're not Dr. fucking Doolittle here. You're not, you're not Squirrel Girl. I mean, Squirrel Girl, I'm pretty sure could have summoned like all the squirrels to
come and chew the wire.
Yeah, come and chew the wire. Well, hell, Squirrel Girl could have come in just like Squirrel Girl beat Thanos.
Right.
So
you did make me think when you were talking about the phone too, about how just this movie progresses and how, it doesn't shy away from showing you who the villain is early on. You find out how extreme he is as it progresses. But when he actually gets a hold of Horst on the phone and is talking to him, I'm stuck in the porta potty. Then all of a sudden you hear the car, because you hear a lot in this movie too, because you're in French. Yeah. So you see the cover get pulled over, and that's it. And then he gets to call 911, and then all of a sudden the signal gets jammed because Horst turns off the signal. You're like, dude, this guy.
Oh man, just when you see the tarp getting put over the porta potty, that freaked me out. Well, that immediately told me, oh, there's someone out there who is deliberately trying to cover this shit.
Right.
Yeah, again, good visual storytelling. Don't need to use dialogue, just something.
He did in that scene. He didn't talk. He didn't say anything. You just suddenly see the tarp get pulled, and the porta potty gets dark. Some of the horror of the movie, because it really does. The music swells and it gets dark in the porta potty. You're like, dang.
Yeah, the lighting changes, and that's the other thing I gotta give to the director. Just the way he uses the natural lighting that would definitely be coming in from the sun outside into the porta potty. The lighting perfectly. It does a great job really making you feel uncomfortable in this thing, not just for the position he's in, but for the fact that he's in a porta potty in broad daylight. Gunning in, that damn thing feels sweaty. It feels nasty. You're pretty sure the heat from that thing is making the smell of the shit like ferment. Man, it's like I wanted out of this damn thing just as quickly, just as soon as he did too. But I do find it funny. Going to the last bit of the movie, I love how the last thing of the movie is Marie jumping in there with him.
Right.
Yeah, they're in darkness. They're going to be fine. But I love that the last line of the movie is,
"You stink.
You smell terrible. You stink.
You stink."
I was like, really?
And props to that lead up and everything, because you have a little bit of a tease where we didn't talk about the Ministry of Environmental. Miss Green, I believe. Yeah, Miss Green. Yeah. Makes a brief appearance, and then the majestic swell of the Edelweiss Allet appearing.
That's another thing. Just when he busts through and makes the hole, and he sees that someone is lying.
Someone else is down there with him,
alive, but even worse, tied up. That tells you just finding out that this is now, if this was just an accident, he could actually have something to work with here. All he could do is just get someone on the phone and they can help. But then he sees someone tied up, and then immediately oh, he's not getting out of here by the traditional means. It's not going to be as easy as yelling to people, "Hey, assholes, get me out of here." And it's like, oh shit, I'm sorry.
And another one of those little touches that Lucas does so well is that he briefly sees something fluttering when he first gets the hole, because he pokes the holes into the outhouse. He sees something fluttering out there, doesn't know what it is. He finds the video on the tablet of the environmentalist holding a conversation where she says this hotel will not be built, this resort will not be built, and he sees the raincoat, and he knows right off the bat that raincoat is what he saw out in the. So those little touches are just so awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of fun that we're having a big old discussion about this movie, because again, going back to just the sheer minimalism of it. But sometimes big ideas, small packages, and it just seems like horror just always seems to be the genre that is able to bring those ideas out.
It's what I always tell people. I say when I recommend this one, trust me, it's just a bundle of fun. I get goosebumps every time I watch it, because it's just so much fun to watch. And then when that last line happens, and then that song you've been hearing periodically, which is an 80s German rock ballad, that song hits at the end, I'm just like, yeah, like such a great time.
There is a nice level of triumph at the dead end. Just knowing that there actually are going to be fine.
Some solid gore at the end too, because you actually briefly see him explode into pieces. You see Horseland explode for a brief second. You see him and the shotgun blast on the cop. So there's a good little amount of gore in this too.
I gotta love the fact that how did Horst even get the deal with these Japanese investors? This guy is spouting his freaking daddy issues over a microphone too.
And it sounds like the dad is even there at one point. I think I never quite catch it, but he mentions something like he says, "Hey, Dad," or something like that. So yeah, this guy is unhinged.
Yeah, this guy is
I'm tearing down your house, Dad. I'm bombing everything. I'm blowing it up.
You know what? A long time ago, I would have said, "How the hell did this guy gain any kind of power?" But unfortunately,
that's yeah.
Mm-hmm. God, I hope he sees jail time. But anyway, I don't have to say who. I know what you're talking about. Let me see if there's any kind of good trivia. Okay. The production was supported by Toy Toy and Dixie Group with 4 of their portable toilet stalls. Due to the limited number of toilets available, the filming was done mostly in chronological order, and the main stall got destroyed more and more as the filming progressed.
I bet. And
that's actually a rarity. You don't really run across the idea that a movie gets filmed in chronological order. Right. But then, given probably the scale and the budget this movie was made on, it probably was by necessity had to be filmed that way.
Right, because as the porta potty was showing all its destruction for continuity, I mean they couldn't go back and refilm stuff.
Yeah, and even more so, you got to think about how many takes they probably had to do just for safety on some of those. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's definitely a lesson to take away from this one. When you're doing a production that's going to require a lot of elaborate and close quarter setups, please think about the notion that you need to plan your shots. And honestly, rehearsal, even though it's film and you can do multiple takes, rehearsal is a beautiful thing. Something like this seems like they would have had to bring out some theater training on this to make sure they're well rehearsed, and so they're on it in order to make sure that they could get as few takes as possible and to be able to do it in chronological order. So I get a vibe that's probably what they had to do for this movie.
Right, I agree.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap up, I think the major thing to take away from this is that this movie is definitely.
I'm glad you liked it.
This movie is 100. It's 127 hours, but poopier. It's like an escape room, but poopier. Just with more poop. Just I guess to make the ordinary extraordinary, you just add more poop.
Right.
So to repeat, this film is on Screenbox right now. Screenbox is still pretty damn cheap, though. I think it's like what $3 a month,
$5 a month, and then
$5 a month. Yeah, it's cheap.
Its yearly sub is really low too.
Yeah, exactly. It is definitely worth the money, and a lot of times if you can't find it on Shudder, odds are pretty good you'll find it on Screenbox actually. So definitely give that one a go.
And they've been cutting some really good deals. I chat a lot with the acquisitions guy, and the PR guy, and they've been coming up with some really sweet deals. Like their August list is one of the beefiest I've seen.
Yeah, I just bought that. Yeah, it's pretty juicy. And of course, to wrap up, Ned, bringing it back to you. If you all watched our interview, you all know Stabby Road coming out in September. Probably by the time you all see this review, it'll probably be out. But it is available on Bandcamp. So, Jeff, just to repeat, where can we find you?
You can find me on my Bandcamp page, jeffwhitmire.bandcamp.com. That's where Stabby Road is or will be available, depending on when this drops. My YouTube channel, Jeff Whitmire 47, and you can find me at Twitter at Jeff Whitmire 1.
All right. And with that, everyone, if you want to explore the depths of human imagination, just simply ask yourself, what's in the podcast? And I guarantee it will not be poop.
Ach du Scheiße.
Ja, wo ich am Champagnerbrunnen versagt war. Denn damit hier genug Platz für unser Luxusritual.